Hello, welcome back to the coop. So, what's the biggest misconception about farming? It's a poultry farming, because I'm learning quite a lot of late. I have one file here that I've been working on. I'll just put it up and I'll walk you through it. The biggest misconception in farming is overall you get a return on investment. At some point, you will definitely get a return on investment. But if you do not break that return on investment down properly, you will never truly know your net return. So, like any business, it's always very important to have a financial book, your financial records, keep them aligned, keep them correct. But in this case, what I'm doing, again, I'm just starting my coop. This is my first project after a few other projects that I've done previously. And in this one, it's completely out of my specialty, right? Again, like I said, I have no background, no history whatsoever on this. So what I did, I designed an Excel file, right? In this Excel file, I've broken it down to a few metrics. Number one, I've taken the cost of chicks. Second, I've taken the cost of feed per bag, that is. And remember, you're feeding your chicks 3 different types of mash. You're giving them chick mash for the duration to which your particular breed requires. Then you're giving them growers mash, again, as specified by the breed. And then you're giving them layers mash. Yes, there is a transitional period between chick and growers and layers and so on. But again, let's work on statics, right? We are not working on the variation that, you're doing a bit of mixing of this mash and that other mash. No, we're assuming that transitioning from this mash to the next mash is immediate, right? Then we have to factor in the cost of labor. Cost of labor, fortunately, is a flat rate based on whatever you've agreed with your employee, correct? Then there's the cost of electricity. Again, why do you need the electricity when you're running a poultry farm? For one very important part. Remember, from 1 day old to give or take 2-3 weeks. This is a very delicate period, especially if you live in areas where temperature fluctuates sharply between day and night. But let's say you're living maybe in the coastal areas around the tropics. That automatically means more or less you have the same temperature, same humidity levels. But if you're closer, say, to the mountain sides, the mountain ranges and so on, you will experience sharp fluctuations in the temperatures. So now, the simulation I'm running today, I want to run 3 scenarios where we have 100 chicks, where we have 500 chicks, and we have 1,000 chicks. So I'll begin with 100. Now, my metric, again, cost of chicks, I'm buying 1 chick for 115 Kenya shillings. So if I'm buying 100 chicks, that automatically becomes 11,500 Kenya shillings, right? Then the cost of feed per bag. Remember, this particular breed is an improved kienyeji bird. This is a hybrid bird. So the mash that I'm giving it is improved kienyeji feed, okay? And 1 bag is 4,000 Kenya shillings. Now, how do I determine the number of bags I need for 8 weeks? Because 8 weeks is the feeding program given to me by my supplier, who is Kenbro. So when they give you this feed program, they give you a recommended feed for each bird on a daily basis. Then multiply that by 7, then you get a weekly average. Okay? So I'm working on the weekly average. My weekly average on the first week per bird is 126 grams. So on and so forth, all the way to 8 weeks, a weekly average becoming now 343 grams. Okay. So when I take that weekly average, I multiply it by the number of birds I have. In this case, remember, we are working with 100 birds. Then I take the same, divide by 50. Why? We're dividing by 50 kgs because 1 bag that I'm buying is a 50 kg bag. Yes, there are suppliers out here will give you a 20 kg or a 40 or a 50 kg. The beauty about going for the 50 kg is usually the cheapest. Again, coming back to economies of scale. So my bag is 4,000 Kenya shillings and I come up with an average of 3.998 bags. Let's round that up to 4 bags. Okay, so now my new total for the cost of feed for the first 8 weeks, where I'm giving strictly chick mash or duck mash, is coming to 15,998 Kenya shillings. Okay, so that's now the second cost that we've calculated. I hope you're noting this down with me. But if you're not, you'd like my working, I have this Excel file ready to share with you. Just put your details in the comment section and I will reach out. Or you can send me an email. Then, now we have the cost of feed per bag. So we are now going to growers mash. We've calculated for the chick mash. Again, the same metric. My supplier has given me a guideline that from 8 weeks, now I'm using around 357 grams all the way to 896 grams on the 17th week. Okay, so this is now 9 weeks. Remember, yes, there was a transitional period. So this is now 9 weeks. Again, the same calculation. I do it and I end up at between 8 weeks to 17 weeks. I will have used around 12 bags, with each bag again averaging 4,000 Kenya shillings, which brings now our total of 48,000 for week 18, week 8 to week 17 for growers mash. Now I come to my layers mash. Remember, at layers mash, your birds can start laying immediately, or they can take some time. So what I have done, I have simulated for layers mash for just 1 week, assuming that I will only work to get these birds to full maturity and sell them off. We'll come to laying. Laying is a whole other episode where we have to talk about so many other metrics. But right now we are calculating from zero to hero, up to a point where if you feel, okay, this business, this poultry business is not for me, this is how much I've used, this is the cost of my birds, this is the bare minimum that I'll put in. So now we have the cost of feed for layers mash for 1 week, averaging 2 bags. For your, remember we used 100 birds. Now the cost of labor. If you're in Kenya, you may have seen recently that domestic workers minimum wage has now been raised to around 18,000 Kenya shillings. So you have to factor that in. And we are working up to 20 weeks to up until the point where my supplier Kenbro is telling me at this point your bird will start laying. So I'm not pushing to week 21, 22, 23, no, up to week 20. So at this point, now I'm coming to a total investment, which is coming to around 146, the 1,000 Kenya shillings. So assuming I have zero mortality with my birds, my actual net return on investment is going to be 5,900 Kenya shillings. Imagine. Oh my God. After 20 weeks, okay, this is just crazy. After 20 weeks, I have made just a bit over 5,000. So if I was to divide that by my 20 weeks, it means that every single day I was making 295 Kenya shillings. Now, let's simulate with 500 birds. This changes very fast. Again, the exact same workings. I'm just using my formulas that I've put in my Excel file. So at 500 birds, my new required amount, again, this is a simulation. There is a plus minus. Always keep that in mind. There's a plus minus of probably, 5-10% here and there, give or take. That gives me a total required amount of 480,000 Kenya shillings. Okay. So my return on investment with zero mortality, and I sell off all these birds, again, 500 roosters and hens mixed up. There are people out here that I've been talking to who managed to sell these birds for up to 2,000 Kenya shillings. Again, I'm not going to take such a high value. I have heard of cases where maybe they'll buy all the hens at around 1,500, all the roosters at, say, 1,600, regardless. So I'm working with a very optimistic value, mind you. But again, I'm quite confident with the market research I've done. So I'm taking a factor of 1,500 Kenya shillings per bird. I have 500 birds, zero mortality. This gives me 750,000 Kenya shillings as my total return on investment. But I have to subtract the amount I have spent to make this 750, which was 480. So that means my net return on investment is now 260,000 Kenya shillings. Think about that. From, if I had kept 100 bads, remember, the profit was becoming around 6,000 Kenya shillings. But now that we have increased that value to 500 bads, profit is coming to 269,000 Kenya shillings. So if I divide this by the 20 weeks that I have been catering for these chicks to become fully mature, it means on a weekly basis, I was making 13,000 Kenya shillings. So on a monthly basis, I was making around 46,000 Kenya shillings. Remember when we were talking about factors such as labor, when we were talking about the cost of electricity, that 46,000 Kenya shillings at that point in time, theoretically, continues to help run your farm so that you can restock and you can build further. But we also need to factor in, what if I never sold the birds? What if all I had were chicks, right? Hens rather. What if I had 50% roosters? These are the points we'll be addressing on the next episode. And again, if you're liking the content, if you're liking the channel, don't forget to like and subscribe, share with your friends. Catch you on the next one. Cheers.